Every September, elk hunters head into the mountains expecting the same thing: screaming bulls, nonstop bugles, and pure chaos in the woods. And when that doesn't happen, when mornings are quiet and the woods feel dead, what do we say? The rut must be weak this year. But what if the rut isn't actually weak at all? On today's show, we're digging into a question a lot of elk hunters ask. Very few actually understand. What really drives that chaos everyone dreams about? Is it ratios, mature bulls, or cow group dynamics? But when you start to unpack how elk herds actually function during the rut, that picture looks very different from what most hunters expect. That discussion, our listeners' shout outs, and questions from our awesome ElkBros mailbox. So, my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
This is my life, country born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com. With your host, Gilbert Ornelas, and elk hunting coach, Joe Giglia. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy our show. And as always, for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding this every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, coming to you from Spring, Texas, and joining me today. That's right, we got the man with the golden voice, the owner of the Western Contours podcast and Western Fly Covers, Mr. Guy Duplanche's in the house with us today. And WWJGD from Cimarron, New Mexico. That's right. El Jefe himself's in the house. What's going on, fellas?
Well, thankfully, man, you said you sent me a text this morning. Said, "Are we doing a podcast?"
Then I stand you up for 20 minutes, man.
Oh yeah, man. But
I waited until 7:05 to get our show notes in the link, so you're all right.
Yeah, no doubt. Had a good stand in, ready to rock and roll.
I'd like to try this gig where I could just show up.
Well, you can if you forget who you're talking to. I'm telling you, boys, I absolutely want to apologize to both of you because I know it's valuable. I got a phone call from a really good friend of mine's son, and his grandfather was a very close friend of mine who passed.
Yes, he
away.
was. I remember when Tony passed, man.
Yeah, so Jay called me on the phone. He was sitting on a drilling rig offshore, and he said, "Mr. Gilbert, I need to talk to you a minute." And we got to cutting it up and chopping it up, and I just forgot what time it was. And when I looked down, when I hung the phone up with him, I looked down. It was like 8:30. I was like, "Where are you at, Big O? Oh my God!" I'm like,
well,
I was ding-donging him today about having a podcast.
You know, I thought I was going to have to just do a solo with Coach episode because the way this week went, man, I mean, I had, and I don't know about you guys out there in this time of year, but this whole business thing is it's become a beast. And
we got to find us a CFO, brother.
I mean, that is not a bad deal, right? It's actually a business because it can be on the other side of that.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Right.
Right. So that's a blessing for sure, man. That's
so I have been, like, for 7 days straight, I've been staring in this computer, working in QuickBooks and doing all this stuff and trying to get everything right. And
so what Joe's saying is, if you need your books done, you just contact Joe Giglia at ElkBros.com.
I got a file 13 for that, man. I hate it with a passion, but actually, doing it really helps you learn a lot about your own business structure and things that you got to do, right?
For sure.
And I think I'd rather be doing that than not,
Yeah.
So, but it's funny.
Yeah, the government wants to put your hand in your pocket when you don't. So hell, they do it when you do, but at the end of the day, they really want to get in your pocket when you don't.
Yeah. So I mean, I had all of that, and then I finished it yesterday, and then we're getting ready to take off now. We got everything happening. So we're heading, me and Chav and the girls, we're heading to Las Vegas. We're heading out tomorrow, going to Las Vegas, Nevada for the Mountain West tournament. Go Lobos, right?
Yay. Cool.
So those guys up there in Colorado and over there in Boise and Vegas, Lobos are coming. So hopefully we put
If
on a
he's singing
show,
that
and then
tune in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
and then we get back, and as soon as we get back from that, man, we're packing up and heading to the Mile High Expo in Denver.
Yes, sir.
That's going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 19th through the 22nd, there in Denver. And what's the name of the place?
22nd.
Actually, 20th through the 22nd. My bad. 19th, we arrive, right? We arrive.
Set up, yeah.
Yeah, we get everything set up on the 19th, and then it's Friday the 20th and the 21st and 22nd. And I think our booth is 555, I believe. I'll be putting that out on Instagram and stuff. So we hope to see people there. We're going to have the booth up. Big O has another engagement from what I understand, man. He's
Unfortunately, Big O is not yet full time into my side hustle. And at the end of the day, I hired a new company that I'm really enjoying working for, and we sponsor an event I'm chairman of I've been on the committee and board of for the last almost 30 years. So there's no way I can miss it. They sponsor it, the whole 9 yards. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody at the Toby, but man, I'm sure going to miss my brothers at the Mile High, but
we're going to miss
we'll find something else to pick up and meet out too. So
we're going to knock out somebody on the side and drag them in and put a Big O shirt on them or something. So
there you go. I know. Are you going to have Dallin there, and you're going to have
Dallin, Guy will be there, Chav will be there. We're going to have Daniel Vigil there. We'll have Jose Cintas there.
Oh, wow. The mayor's coming.
Yep.
Awesome,
Seth Perky's going to show up over there. So
fantastic.
We've got the crew being represented, and I mean Daniel and Dallin last year just lit the place up calling, so I'm excited to have that. I'll be doing 2 seminars. I'll be doing one on Friday and Saturday, I believe, is when I'll be doing the seminar. So love to see folks come out there. Me and Guy anxious to meet y'all. Guy arm wrestles. I come from behind and I put in bear hugs.
I'll be emceeing the elk hauling competition again. And then podcast.
That was so fun last year.
The ship.
Yeah. And then for the podcasters out there, we got the Abe and Phil, the guys that put on that expo, have that booth set up. So I help with production on that. And then change of venue this year. It's at the National Western Center in Denver.
National Western Center in downtown. Right.
Yeah. So they moved it this year.
Love Denver, man. One of my favorite little towns.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. Today we're going to do, if you guys hang in, we're going to do the spin a winner wheel here in a little bit. That's back today. We're going to do that. And I need to find this because I had a lady that sent in a review that did not put her name, and I wish she did because I thought it was so cool. And I wanted you guys to hear this because I think this speaks volumes. She said, I've been archery hunting 9 years and no harvest. Able to at least get tons of grouse for lunch. That being said, I'm using the tools and each season getting more encounters and even been able to draw my bow on 2 bulls last year. So I've been charged by grizzly bears and followed by wolves, but this helps keep my head up when the heart is heavy. As a female hunter, it's nice to have the bros be respectful and keep it relevant to archery. Thanks, guys. Keep it up and good luck to all this archery season. Mary.
That's awesome.
And that's Mare Bear 6 that sent that. So
good on you, Mary.
Yeah.
Keep grinding.
Keep grinding, sister. I'm telling you, you can't kill one if you ain't out there doing it. Keep showing up. It's going to happen for you.
Yeah, and that's one thing too, Mary, I'm glad you appreciate what we do. And I know early on when we started this podcast, as a coach, I've coached. I had a very large track team. I had the men's team and I had the women's team together. And when I talked to them, I talked to my whole team together. And I always used guys. I said, you guys, this guys, you know. So when I say guys, it's not meaning dudes. It's meaning everybody. It's like folks, right? So,
Yeah.
I hope and hope people understand them when they do that, because we have been talking about how much we really like to see more women get involved with what we do.
Sure.
And that's
and starting to see a little bit of that too, Joe. Of course, as we dive into the more delve places where we go, we starting to see more and more of that showing up. More women out there in the field doing what they love. I mean, there's several TV shows now that are hosted by women that's what they do. So
I really like the solo aspect of her getting out there. I mean, that's freaking phenomenal. I will
Speak
say,
up, bro. Let them hear
what I was
you
going
in
to say
the
is,
back.
I mean, for all the years that that we've been doing the podcast and whatnot, I don't recall getting a response from a female like that.
Mm-mm.
So I'm going to say it's our first, at least that's been on air that I know of. So Mary, when you listen to this podcast, reach out to Joe, reach out to myself, and I'm going to send you a Western Fly care package, so you can load your pack up for this season when you hit the woods in September. So make sure you hit us up and I'll get that out to you.
So Mayor
Look
Bear,
at brother guy hooking her up, man.
Mayor Bear, that's Joe at ElkBros.com. Connect up with me. I'll get it to Guy. We'll need your name, address, email, shipping information, and see if we can get you hooked up. But we really appreciate that. And my daughter, she's like, well, Dad, I see you training all these coaches and stuff. How come you don't have a woman coach? And it's a good question. And I gave a very realistic answer. And I said, we just don't put anybody there. And I find somebody that comes to me that has that passion, has that qualification, heck yeah, and that wants to be a part of this, absolutely. And that's as well as because I want women hunters to feel comfortable with coming into our camp as well. And the way we do our coached hunt and everything, I think it would just be super. And I actually did get a request from a man and his wife that are talking, interested in a turkey hunt coming out. So,
saw that today.
I'd really like to see more of that, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
For sure.
All right, dude. So that's what's going on now. Let's,
Joe, I want to stop you real quick and ask you how far are we from giving away the second hunt? How many we need to go in adventure club before we give away the second hunt?
Actually, it'll be the third hunt. And
the third one. My bad.
It'll be the third one. We are 4 spots away.
4 spots away. Y'all better get in on this. Better draw odds than anywhere in the country. If you don't believe me, go look it up. 1 in 32 chance to win a $10,000 elk hunt to come hunt with us in New Mexico.
Yeah, I'm real excited to be able to. I hope that happens soon. I want to draw that and know who we have, and if it's going to happen this year, because actually, man, all of our archery hunts and all of our coached hunts sold out this year. So if we have to book them for 27, they know where they're going, right? So
sure.
So that's pretty cool, man. Yeah. So let's get moving. I really want to get into this tonight, man.
Sounds good. Well, guys, Guy, if you want to lead us off on our Elk Bros mailbox question.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. All right, our brother Ty Brooks out of Powhatan, Virginia. Ty writes, my question is about broadhead selection. I agree 100% on getting 2 holes is the key. So I spent some serious coin on some popular 2-blade single bevel broadheads with bleeder blades. I made a perfect shot at 20 yards, complete pass through. He was immediately gasping for air and gave me time for a follow-up shot. Sent another through both lungs, 7 or 8 more steps, and I snuck in a third quartering away. He ran off, and I knew he wouldn't go far. My problem was there was hardly any blood. I got on my hands and knees to follow specks of blood. I searched for an hour and was sick to my stomach, thinking he was lost. I eventually and thankfully Good on you, brother. Found him and had walked by him only 50 yards away, but I never want to be in that situation again. The broadheads did a great job punching 2 holes, but the bleeder blades did not do their job. After 3 arrows, there should have been massive blood trail. Do you have any recommendations on fixed blades I could try? I know that's a loaded question, but I need some advice, brother. That debate will continue to be loaded across our demographic for eternity, right? And the best broadhead you could use to not deal with that is going to come in a 300 PRC.
Love the advice,
of a doubt, right?
180 grain Barnes TTSX 300 PRC, baby.
You know, I talked to Ty today. I gave him a phone call. He sent me a quite lengthy email, and really,
was he shooting a deer, Joe, or an elk?
This was an elk.
Okay, this
is an elk, and he really, half of his email was thankful because he has been successful on elk hunts because he just thanked us a lot for all the information that he's been able to learn, how he felt lost before, and he really had a lot of, grew a lot and understood a lot and was able to use that. I mean, as soon as he said, he shot that animal and he was there and he said, he gave me another shot and I put another arrow through him, I was like, there's somebody that listens right there, right?
Absolutely. So you can keep putting them in him till he's down, man.
And he did just that. And this dude pulls 75 pounds, 500 grain arrow, zipped through this bull 3 times with 2-blade, single bevel with bleeders on it, right?
Yeah.
And was following specs. And I've told him, so for me, as a guide and having done this for 30 some years, man, I've seen that. And it's not that it's not a good shot. It's not that it's not a sharp broadhead. It's a very sharp broadhead. Goes through that animal fast. I think sometimes that 2-blade broadhead, as sharp as it is, creates a surgical cut that does not permit bleeding, man.
Amen.
Yeah, and you get those folds of skin. They have a big dura about them, which is the outer layer of their skin, right? And that is real elasticized. So when you get that cleaner cut, it's real easy for that dura to, especially when they're moving, their body's moving, and it stretches that fold of skin over that 2-bladed hole, right? And it really seals it up, especially if he's a little high, So, I mean, if he's mid-body or a little higher, you got to get filler. You got to get him to fill up before he starts spilling. Hit an artery in there that, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just punch the lung through and we don't hit the artery. But I have seen that quite a bit. And it's the reason why me hunting in South Texas, I hunt with the broadheads I hunt because I gotta have a blood trail, man. That thick, you've been down there, Joe. You know how thick it is. If you can't track one with a blood trail, you got to get a dog in there, man. It is so thick, and you'll walk right past him in 30 yards, 50 yards, easy because it's just so thick. So for me, it's about, man, I like a broadhead that gives a big wound channel, and it opens a big hole up in them, and that way we can at least, that bull I shot last, I got a puncture on the opposite side, but I didn't get a full pass through. It punctured a hole on his off shoulder, right? So it made it all the way from that back rib all the way in through his back shoulder. But I got blood trail all the way around there, and then it kind of petered out and it got dark, right? But we were able to follow blood all the way into the direction that he was going. So that led me to find him, right? But that, when it first started, when it first hit him, it was tons of blood coming out, right? So again, I like something that's got, that makes a big hole. And you sacrifice some penetration for the bigger hole. Right, but
I don't know if you do, man.
I keep killing bulls and keep killing stuff with it. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to say that there is a sacrifice. I mean, I shoot a 570 grain arrow.
Sorry, I 110% agree with Joe in terms of the surgical cut. Right, the first bull I lost 2018.
Yeah.
So I'm a single bevel guy, right?
Right.
I mean that that I'm through and through. I don't necessarily need the bleeders. What I have changed since I lost that bull, because that was my thought, is blade profile. I would prefer a thicker profile blade, if you will, versus something that's sleek, scalpel sharp,
Yeah.
blazing through, right? I mean, with that cut, not just the durable coagulation,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that it becomes an issue, and I've seen it not just on elk. I've seen it on other animals as well, right? It's not to the detriment as much as it is on a big old bull.
Oh, I've seen it happen with whitetail a lot.
But I really lean towards a thicker profile on that blade, right? I do like the tonsil tips.
Yeah.
I still love a single bevel. I haven't really been anal about the bleeders because of the thicker profile on that blade.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked for suggestions. I have my.
Please do. Please
Yeah, I have
suggest your
my
VPA stuff.
suggestions. The last 3 years or so, I've been using the Vantage Point Archery Omega broadheads, and I absolutely love them. I like the profile on them. I like the tonsil tip, and they're probably one of the easiest single bevel broadheads to sharpen. The way they do that, if you come up the ferrule, I got some here. I'm pulling out. When they come up the ferrule on that, let's see. Oh, it comes up good. This bevel is anchored with that bleeder. So all I have to do is lay that on my stone, and I run that, and I keep my blade profile. And it's got some thickness to it. There's some meat to it, we'll say.
Big time.
Yeah, that ferrule that is going to open a hole, right there. So
and I love this thing, and I swear by it. I've killed turkey with it. I've killed deer with it. It's been a phenomenal broadhead.
I'm interested to see when it goes to an elk, man. That's what I'm
too.
interested to see. So
Luis shot, I want to say, no, he shot one with a grizzly stick this year, but he's got some VPAs that he shot the hogs with, the Omegas, and man, they blow through a hog, and did a good job.
Up, dude.
Yeah.
So then
Did a
when
really good job.
I saw the gang at the Western Hunting Conservation Expo, and I just been very curious for some reason lately about, and we're talking fixed blades, right, about a 3-blade fixed. So I grabbed another precision machine 3-blade from Vantage Point. I shoot 150 grain.
Look like an old Hellraiser.
Yeah, I mean, this thing it's right now they're flying super clean. This one hasn't flown. I just pulled it out of the pack, so just to qualify that. But everything that I've shot from them, from their crazy turkey spur to their small game heads, I mean, everything is super durable, American made through and through, and just phenomenal people in that company. So check Vantage Point out. Get on that website. It's vantagepointarchery.com or vparchery.com. But I really have enjoyed these Omegas.
So one thing I told him is, and they talk about old dog and everything. Armando was busting on me yesterday, but I've been shooting wasp broadheads, the hammer, SST, the boss. I don't worry about Havalon blades. All that kind of stuff doesn't impress me. Just a regular blade. I've been shooting that for 30 years, right? And killed, and always get pass-throughs, everything like that. I like the chisel tip, man. I really like that cut-on contact chisel tip. But I'm going to try something this year, man. I mean, I've been watching the results. I've been seeing what Gil's been doing with it. I've seen what the hole looks like as it goes in on this animal. And so I've got a new box right here I'm getting ready to open up, and I'm going to play with the tooth of the arrow, the Toda. I'm going to do the tooth of arrow broadheads. They're the vented. They're fixed. And, I mean, Gil, how many have you taken with one broadhead? 9
animals with one broadhead. We're working on number 10. So they tell me at Tooth of the Arrow, it's the record. So, I mean, it's taken, I want to say 6 hogs. It took an elk this year. It's taken probably 2 or 3 deer. I'm sorry, 4 hogs. So, I mean, we ran it through that elk and I got it back. I couldn't believe I got it back, but I thought it went through him, but it was lodged in the shoulder bone or lodged in the shoulder meat on the opposite side. And so we unscrewed it, screwed it back in there. And then I killed a hog with Luis up at his place with it. So, or at my place with it. And, again, it's just such a tough head. You're able to, I mean, literally run it through an animal and then put it right back on the sharpener that they send you. And I mean, just, and it's ready to shave hair again. But what it does, Joe, is it's
a actually 4-blade, right? It's a 4-blade.
It is a 4-blade. And they make a 3-blade, but this is a 4-blade. And if you shoot it through a piece of steel or anything, it will punch a hole that looks like that, like a square
hole.
It becomes a square hole. Yeah.
It's a square hole. And brother, when I tell you, when you hit an animal with that, I don't care where you hit them. I've hit some back in the liver. I've hit, shot one on a follow-up shot, a big whitetail, shot him through the gut. I'm telling you, he bled and poured his guts out like you would shoot him with a dadgum Coke can. I mean, it was crazy the amount of blood that we were able to track him with, I shot a really nice whitetail this year with it. And I mean, yeah, I watched him, run out there and fall, but man, Ray Charles could have followed the blood trail. I mean, it's really crazy to see once you start doing the forensics and you're pulling the skin off and everything and diving into the wound channel. We've got some real video on the wound channel and everything else. And it's just phenomenal how the trauma that it creates going through an animal. I mean, that was no giant bull that I killed by any means, but it's still a big animal. And I shot him at 63 yards. And that's another thing. It's pinpoint accuracy with those things. I don't have to. Now, I don't practice much without a broadhead on my bow. So it's not like I shoot a ton of 3D or anything like that. When I'm practicing, I'm using my hunting arrows. So I have a set of broadheads that I ding up and get messed up and whatever. But I practice with the heads, with them. And you can shoot it 2 or 3 times through a target and never have a problem, shooting it back through an animal. I mean, they're just really tough heads and they fly like a field point. I mean, we shoot them out to 80 yards all the time, no problem. And it's the vented head that I shoot that Joe's out. I've tried the solids and I got a little bit of planing when I out past 60, 70 yards with the solids. So, and the solids are a great head. I mean, but it was like 175 grain solid that I was shooting and I wanted to drop back to 125s. So, brother, if you want to try a head that's single carbon steel piece, I mean, they machine it all out of one piece of steel. If you want to try that head, I won't tell you they're cheap, but they're not. If you're paying for a single 2-blade with bleeders, you're probably paying 3 times as much as what these will cost.
Well, so that's where I came in with that, though, dude. Is one thing they do is they run a lot of sales.
They do,
and they hit a 40% sale.
Yes, they did.
And
but who cares if it's on sale and you can kill 9 animals with the same head?
I care.
I
care.
Yeah.
But
there's value. There's value over time or value over.
So for all you blue collar guys out there that
we're blue collar dudes too,
right,
man.
But the point is,
I get what guys saying.
Gil's killed 9 animals. For some guys, that's, call it 6 years of killing. In 6 years, they bought 1 pack of broadheads. That's a bit more expensive than going and buying, a $35 to $55 pack, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you cost per use is way cheaper over 9 years for a 3-pack, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Like to me, it makes sense, right? And a lot of and I'm not disparaging anything, but a lot of the lower end broadheads are hard to sharpen.
Yep.
You know, when Gil is going through stuff down there in South Texas, he's hitting a rock.
Oh
right?
yeah.
So if he's not spending that little extra coin, we'll say, on the blue collar salary, then he's replacing those broadheads every time he shoots them, just about, right? I mean, to me, I always look at value over time versus that expenditure now, right? If that thing is going to last me through 9 animals, like, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So this bull that's right above me right here was taken with a Muzzy Trocar, and I hunted bulls for 12. And I just started 3 years ago shooting this total broadhead, but I promise you, I have both style broadheads in my quiver.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to Luis building these arrows to where it don't matter what I screw on the end of them, they're going to shoot really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to shoot really good.
Arrow lasts like 7 or 8 animals too. And then it was the bull that broke the
bull broke my dang arrow, man. Yeah, that was the crapper,
right?
man.
Yeah. The other thing I want to tell Ty,
hand over fist.
The other thing I want to tell Ty is also the best, fixed blade is the one that flies the best for you in your setup too.
100, brother.
Yeah.
100. That's right.
So, experiment a little bit if you have to.
I don't think I don't think
Vantage Point, but if you go on, they'll sell you. I think they call it the Test 3-pack, and it's like $50, and you can select 3 of whatever broadheads shoot you, right? You can get their Omega single bevel, you can get their regular single bevel. If you want to shoot, a double bladed, 2-blade or 3-blade, you could throw a 3-pack in there, and like Joe's saying, test those things out, see how they fly, see what you like, check out the sharpening, and you got an extra 1 or 2 in your quiver, without buying a whole pack and committing to something right off the bat. I think they do a pretty good job with doing that. I love their warranty.
I've always used replaceable blades in my Wasp, right? But I just got to tell you, there is something cool to me. There's something that is connecting to sharpen a broadhead.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Like your knife.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, like your own knife.
Yep.
No, I agree 100%. Ty, I don't think you'll ever go wrong if you screw one of these broadheads we talked about on the end of your string, brother. That's VPA Omega, you screw a Tota V Series 125 on it, XL, that's what I shoot. Or you go get you a old Wasp Boss or Havlon nominal heads, and you want to that. I've been hunting with Joe many years and watch what that old Wasp does to a bull. And I'm telling you, we ain't ever had to worry about really much of a blood trail because we watch them fall when we shoot them, man. So it's been pretty cool to watch the evolution of heads and how they come around. I mean, the old standard's been that Wasp and the old Muzzy and the Buzz Cut, the Magnus broadhead. I mean, it's been the old standard for a long time, but I don't think you'll go wrong with either one of them heads we've talked about today, Ty.
Yes, sir. And I know all y'all, there's a lot of people out there have their favorite. That's awesome. Whatever works for you, keep it. If it's working, keep running. Okay?
We're just telling you what works for us.
Yeah, exactly. All right, dog. Let's move on.
Guys, you know what time it is. It's time for the ElkBros shout-outs. If you're new to our show, this is just shout-out to our followers with a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week, Joe.
Yeah, but what we're going to do is we got the spin a winner wheel back, man.
Oh, yeah.
So,
okay, cool.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. I'm gonna share that puppy here, and we've got the spin a winner wheel. These are people that have sent reviews in. Like I said, we haven't been pushing that. Well, shoot, we weren't even on the air, man, through from I think July till whenever, man, that we got back in there. That we, because we were so busy during the season. So these are guys that are out there: Jason Schultz, David Staub, John Quinn, Daryl Presley, Taylor Griffin, Kurt Hargens, Jess N., Paul Perky, Sean Morgan, Christopher, Ty Brooks. Christopher is from New Orleans, Louisiana. Ty Brooks, John Child, Ty Halbert, Alan Getty, Dan Ray, Chris McKelvey, man. We're going to spin, and whoever gets this one, man. Chris wins everything, huh?
Joe, before you spin that thing, what was the young ladies that sent you a review in? What was her name?
Well, she didn't. Mary. It was just Mary,
Okay.
So.
Well, I would like for you to send Mary on my dime, send Miss Mary, or on ElkBros dime, send Miss Mary a juice or a Burnham Red call to go along with what guys send her.
Yep. So when we get that, we'll do that, man.
For sure.
I'll be waiting for your dime too, bro.
Not a problem, brother. You can take it out of my pay, bro.
Do you dock him when he's late to the office or what?
Yeah. He's already been hit for that, man. So the winner for us is going to get an ElkBros Soloist bugle tube. If you already have one, let me know. We'll figure out something else to send you. And an ElkBros t-shirt. We just had some new shirts that got made. We have some new inventory coming in. We brought back a couple of old favorites. The Coming Out Heavy, we've got that one, just now coming in, and we got some cool new looks coming in. So we're going to get you set up with that. Here we go.
I hear it this time.
You hear it?
Mm-hmm.
Good deal. So,
Paul Perky's name's in there.
Is it?
It's
Christopher
from New Orleans, Louisiana.
From Nolens, Louisiana.
Christopher, Joe at elkbros.com, and we'll get you set up, man. And so let's get going with our top listening cities. So this week's top listening city is where the Marlboro horse breed, developed in the early 1800s, originated here and became one of the first sport horses. This is one of the main historic routes into Washington, D.C., and dates back to early colonial travel routes. Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Yeah.
Marlboro, Maryland.
Upper Marlboro, Maryland.
Upper
Marlboro.
I'll be dang.
I wonder if that's where the Marlboro man actually came from.
No telling, man. No telling. Marlboro horse breed.
Yeah.
You ever heard of that guy, the Marlboro horse breed?
Uh-uh.
I've been around horses most of my life. I never heard of a Marlboro horse.
You weren't around the good working one then, I guess.
I sure wasn't. I wonder if they're like a big draft horse or something,
I have no idea, man.
See,
well,
here
it says
you
an
go. When
American
you start asking
sport
the
horse.
questions, I got to Google it.
Yeah, he's been to go to Chat GPT.
Guy's already Googling, man.
For sure.
He's on it. So
that's funny. You think you're going to get us an answer here, guy?
I'm looking, brother.
Oh, Guy Duplanche, man. I'll fix that.
Yeah, I'll fix that right now. We don't know what that is.
Oh, man. That's why I started laughing so hard.
I know, dude. All right, Gil, you're up.
These guys are horrible, man. This is a daggum family show, man. Up next, sitting near Lake Sakakawea, one of the largest man-made lakes in the United States, in the height of the 2008 oil boom in the Bakken Shale. This is top listening cities. Fast food restaurants were offering a massive $20,000 sign-on bonus just to hire workers in their fast food restaurants in none other than Williston, North Dakota.
Dude, it's a
North
good thing, man.
Dakota.
I would have never become a teacher. I'd have been
$20,000 sign-on.
20
sling hash
signing bonus.
I want to say, Joe, I've looked before, and I think Williston, Dickinson area, Dunn County, in that area of North Dakota is probably more per capita millionaires than anywhere in the world. The oil companies up there absolutely from 2008 to 2014 went bonkers and were offering people $50,000 an acre to lease their land. And you got these old sod farmers up there that ain't never made a dollar. You know what I mean? That, got 2,000 or 3,000 acres of land. Just think about what the daggum, if it was 20,000 acres and they got 5,000 acres, that's $10 million. You know what I mean? So it's a crazy amount of money for those people that have never seen, $100,000. Yeah, that kind of money. And that's really what people got hung up on. But what they didn't really understand was the eighth that they got on the production. So that mailbox money every month, so made a lot of millionaires up there in Dunn County.
Yeah, but from what I understand too, in the wintertime it's like -20 up there. So,
Brutal,
Well, that's why
brutal weather.
there's your it's quite a bit of money. It's $1,000 for every negative they hit in that signing bonus there, buddy.
I never thought you're pretty sharp there, Duplanche, man.
We
Yes,
got
sir.
It's
$1,000 for every
brutal
degree
cold
below
up there,
negative.
man.
That's crazy.
Brutal cold up there. I asked Boone, one of our agents at Smith Bits when I worked over there for them. I asked Boone one time, Boone Herring, phenomenal man. He's retired now, but I asked Boone, I said, Boone, what are your months that you get snow up here? He said, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. I'm like, well, that's every month, Boone. He goes, I've seen it snow on July 4th, Labor Day. He goes, dude, I mean, it snows all the time up here. I'm like, holy crap, man.
That's crazy.
He said, we got June, July, and winter.
June, July, and winter.
June, July, and winter.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, guy, you're up.
I'm up, and then I will talk about this Marlboro horse thing. This top listening city sits near Burgess Falls, Cummins Falls, and Fall Creek Falls, meaning you can see more waterfalls in one weekend than some states have in total. Sitting right smack in the middle of Tennessee, locals proudly say they're halfway to everywhere. Cookeville, Tennessee.
Cookeville, Tennessee.
Man, that's awesome. Tennessee is a beautiful state.
So what did you learn about the horses?
There's no Marlboro horse breed. Yeah, there's not a individual, not a breed. What it looks like is a reference to the Marlboro horse trials that horses were bred for, and then it's just reference to the Marlboro man's horse.
Huh,
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I had to go deep AI search on it because it was just coming back with
astray, man.
Yeah, it just
We
kept
got straight.
it kept coming
Chavez,
back
where's
with,
Chav at?
the Marlboro man and his horse.
All right, guys,
awesome.
let's get going.
Guy, what is next?
Main content.
There we go. Yes, sir.
You know, when we were talking about analyzing elk herds, and like I said, I was talking to Ty today, and I talk to hunters all the time. Hunters that send emails into me or questions and stuff, and I hate to type, so I'll just give them phone calls. And some of the questions that I get really make me realize a couple of things. One of them is in understanding elk and hunting strategy part of it. And the other part is just really, and I guess it goes hand in hand, is understanding the elk themselves and the makeup of the herd and the rut and what's happening and how different the elk. And, you know, when we all see on social media, you know, Wyoming, Idaho, Washington, Arizona, people see all this stuff and they get this overall look of how elk are, of herd makeup, of the responses of or formula to a good rut. They think that that's something that is pretty much the same. And I don't want to say everybody thinks it's the same, but I think a lot of people think they come to the mountains and the elk are bugling, you call them in and you go kill them, right? It's that easy. Or they're just quiet, or there's no rut, right? So let's start right here, because this is where a lot of hunters get confused. We hear it all the time, right? And it can be a numbers thing, or it could be just a rut thing. And I don't know that they really even think about the numbers when they're thinking about that. So when they go out and they start doing their location bugling and everything like that, I don't know that they're really thinking or have really looked into what their herd makeup is. I don't think they have analyzed their herd. I don't think they understand that, because, so let me ask you this. If we had more bulls the rut should be insane, right? Yeah, like guys go out there and they say, okay, if I had a high bull to cow ratio, and I'll tell you, like on where I guided on Vermejo Park, we had a 50 to 100 bull to cow ratio, 50 to 100, and so you go like, that should be off the charts, right? It's like.
Mm-hmm.
That should make the competition. If you have that many bulls competing for those cows, that
50 bulls for 100 cows. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's 1 and 2, right?
Gotcha. Yeah. That should, I mean, you put that many guys in a bar, right? You do that 1 to 2, right? And you just use that ratio.
Yeah.
There might be some fights in that bar. Right?
That ratio is going to shrink nowadays. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you don't know the pronoun.
Sorry. No offense.
So is there an argument that a higher bull to cow ratio increases competition between bulls for the cows and therefore increases rut activity? All right. So the natural thing would be yes, right? That is absolutely an argument that a higher bull to cow ratio happens. But there can be a nuance to that.
Could happen because it's really dependent on the cows and when they come in heat.
Well, age class.
Yeah, age class for sure.
All right.
Age class of your bulls, but it really depends on when those cows come into estrus, right? No matter how many bulls you got, if the cows ain't in estrus, the rutting activity isn't as. You're gonna have bulls that are out there challenging one another because they're ready to rock and roll, right? But the cows ain't ready. And I've found that when cows ain't ready and bulls are, they'll go to other bulls sounding off and leave cows.
Yeah. So let's even break this down even just a little bit more, right? Because
Sure.
when you think about this, there should be that more intense herd defense, right? If you got all these all these bulls that are going after these cows, there should be that intense, fighting going on. But you hit a good point when somebody said age class, because if these are 5 to 8 year old bulls,
Oh yeah.
absolutely. If the bull structure is strong, and what do we mean by bull structure, right? Because if there are only, so I had a couple of hypotheses. These are a couple of questions that I asked myself, like, for example, a big question, we're going to get back to this one later, we're going to come back, but one of those questions was, if you hunt your cows and you lessen your herd, is that going to affect your rut? We're going to come back to that question. So the other thing is that if 5 to 8 year old bulls are what you want to create an intense rut, then why would it be better to target raghorns and smaller bulls and to keep those bigger bulls there, right? Would that make a more intense rut? Well, guess what, guys? Not really. Because what happens when you have a lot of mature bulls and no younger bulls in there, right? What happens is you create more efficiency in the breeding.
Yeah.
Right? You also have bulls that are more mature and will fragment those groups of cows because they can do that with each other. They're up there, right? They're mature bulls, right? So they can actually split up those herds. They more efficient at splitting the herds up, more efficient at breeding. And if you're more efficient at breeding and you're keeping cows together in small groups, and you said it, the estrus comes in. If they come in when they're supposed to come in, and that bull's efficient at breeding those, that's going to be a very short breeding window. It's going to be intense.
Especially if he's only got 6 to 8 cows with him, instead of 20 cows. You know what I mean? So, and we all know that a cow's going to get bred more than one time in her cycle by a different bull.
But if that bull is an efficient breeder,
right?
And if you have multiple mature bulls, then that cow is most likely going to be bred efficiently. So what happens with that? So think about this. So we know that what causes the rut is cows coming in estrus, right?
Yeah, days getting shorter.
So the more cows you have in a group, the more that estrus cycle, you're going to have, cows that are going to come in at different times, right? If you have
that's God's nature. That's God's way of not having all the dadgum calves at the same time.
Well, but God wants all the calves to come at the same time, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay.
No doubt. Yep.
So why does he want all the calves to be dropped at the same time?
Harder to predate on all of them than
100%.
Every now and then.
And if it's strung out, but what happens is when it depends on your herd makeup. So if you have different age cows, some of them are going to come in at different times.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I think places with bigger herds of cows, you start seeing some of them don't get bred because they don't have enough bulls, right? Yeah. So you see them come in the second and third time, right? Because there's not enough bulls. That's why, a lot of guys say, man, they were still going bonkers part of November, Well, yeah, they're going bonkers because those cows didn't get bred. And there were some other bulls that came in that were probably younger bulls that are, turned on because those cows didn't get bred.
So if you have cow numbers that are lower and estrus that is synchronized, right? Yeah. That means breeding's going to happen fast. Bulls don't need, there won't be that extended chaos, right? And the rut window compresses. So that's where in those years where we have the full moon, right? Those years we have the full moon. And if you have that kind of situation where you have mature bulls, you've got low cow numbers, and you've got estrus that is synchronized, it could be them bulls can be cracking each other all night long, and then you're done.
Done.
You're done,
yeah, it's
right?
24, 48-hour window, and then it's like a fart in the wind. They just vaporize. Where'd they go? Happens that fast.
Yep. Yeah, but if the estrus is spread out, the bulls have to guard longer. There's more competition. And when you said about the more bulls, right? Okay, yes and no. So again, there's caveats to that. I love that word. Guy uses that word all the time. Caveat, right? And the caveat is if you have those 68-year-old bulls, then you have those 3-year-olds, then you have those 2-year-old. You might have a large number, but there's only so many of them
breeders
that are good breeders, efficient, let's say efficient breeders, right?
Yep.
Okay. And if that 3-year-old is able to split off 5 or 6 of those cows, is he going to be screaming?
No way.
No, man, he want nobody to know. Yeah, he's going incognito, man.
That's it.
James Bond stuff, man.
Especially, and proximity has a lot to do with that too, right?
Yeah.
Depending on how far he can push his cows and they're willing to go with them.
We saw it this year hunting in New Mexico, how many young bulls we had that wouldn't say a word. They'd come in silent every time because they didn't want to get their tails whipped, right? Which tells you you're around some bigger bulls because these bulls are staying quieter, and they want to slip in there and snake 1 or 2 of them cows off without popping off,
Right.
I think once it gets it pretty hot and heavy and they're getting that smell in the air, I think a lot of them get aggravated, but those younger bulls will stay quiet while those big ones are popping off,
Yeah. Those younger guys, they're good at tending, right? But they're going to be quiet about it, man. So there's not going to be all this advertisement. These guys just aren't going to do the same thing.
And sometimes that'll make them hook them cows and hightail it when, I don't know, it seems like it's been 4 or 5 years. I was calling for Brandon Waddell, Southern Colorado, and we watched the same group of cows have 3 different bulls until Big Daddy came in with his other cows, right? And we were set up and saw them down below. I'm trying to get this bull to come in, and I just let off a light little chuckle, and he literally ran to the cows and just started hooking and pushing. They got in the open and they just hightailed. And he just made them go hightail, and then they jumped on a private. So you can send that the other way by not understanding, where you are in the rut, and then that situation, that herd dynamic, and that makeup too. So it could be a detriment to you depending on where you are in the rut.
Yep. Joe, I wanted to say something too this year. I learned quite a bit while I was hunting in between the rut in November, late October, where we were rifle hunting. A lot of guys don't call during that time of the year. They think calling's done. Well, I got news for you, fellas. If you learn how to call and what to call, it is highly effective. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, you're not necessarily calling to the bulls. You're not. You're calling to the matriarch cow that has that maternal instinct. So you're sounding like a lost calf a lot, and a lot of calf sounds and a lot of lost calf sounds. And I called in a massive herd of elk with a giant bull in it. And he came because they came. Right. So when I called them off the side of this ridge, they came all the way across the top of the ridge into the middle of a gorge that we were sitting in. And bless his heart, my hunter couldn't get his dealy bop dialed up good enough to shoot this giant bull. But 100%, the cow came to the lost calf. When she shot off the top of that ridge, she was calf calling and cow calling and mute to find that calf, and I was a little upset that we didn't put the decoy out, because I think that would have really locked her up when she come rolling off there and seen the decoy, the decoy that we put out, the little Dakota decoy that we had. I think that would have really locked her up, because when they came down there and they didn't see the calf, they were all kind of befuddled, but she come pouring off of that mountain again. So you guys that are hunting after the rut or in the later stages of it, or secondary or third, don't think that calf call won't do what you want it to do and get a big bull to come in, because he's not coming to the calf call. He's coming with the calf coming to the calf call. Right.
And that happens a lot in a lot of situations. Right, bro? So
absolutely.
They're a vocal herd animal.
Yes, sir.
And even if it's a solo bull, younger bull, older bull, there's generally a curiosity there if it's a lost calf, right? And at a bare minimum with that call, if there's a bull in proximity and he's solo, he's bedded down, he's going to sound off and say, hey, I'm over here, you can come to me on that lost calf.
You guys in grizzly country, y'all might not want to use that one.
Yeah.
You know what you do in grizzly country?
No.
Stay out of it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, some of our brothers got to hunt up here, man, Montana, Idaho, and stuff, man.
You ain't the top of the food chain. So
Negative.
here's the thing that I want to think about and compare. If you have 40 bulls per 100 cows, but those bulls are 2 to 3 year olds, compared to 25 bulls to 100 cows, but those bulls are 6 to 8 year olds, you can have two different looks.
Agreed.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
But I hear you, but are you, right? Because that activity, that testosterone drive, their drive to breed, yes, it's going to look different, but the dynamic, if they know one of those bulls is going to control more cows, right? He's going to be
somebody's winning. Yeah.
Right. He's going to be the herd bull in that situation.
Whether he's a 5x5 or not.
Right.
Don't matter.
Right. So I hear what you're saying, but I think the dynamic changes a little bit, and they're probably not as vocal, and they're
agreed.
Probably not as aggressive as a more mature bull would be in terms of chasing one off. I think they'll offer a bit more caution, but I think once the cows start dripping and he feels like he's the man, that temperament's going to change, and I'm the man here, young guys. And I think we could tend to see a similar aspect, just not the dominance that we see with the older, more mature bulls.
In a shorter window. That's
the whole thing. It's not the dominance, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, and that's why actually, and that's where when I said, I was thinking, well, would it be better just to take, younger bulls, and that's not necessarily the case, because they're part of the buzz that's around there, right? That's going, and they're going to be the ones off in the wings. And that's like, so remember last year, Gil, when I drove in and I said, I was worried because I saw 150 cows still together there at the beginning of September, right?
Yeah.
So that meant the bulls weren't really splitting them off. But when you see that like that, it tells you that there are bulls in the wings. They just haven't gone in there. So, if you find that big group of cows, man, those bulls are up on those ridges just waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're just on those. So if you remember last year, right, there was a ridge that we got up on top of, and you think about it, this ridge was just up above where grass and water was, because those bulls know that those cows and those big groups of cows are going to come to the good grass and the good water, just like we do as hunters, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And instead
but they
of
don't have to go all the way down. They can use the thermals to scent check it all.
and they wait at the destinations, man.
Yeah.
And then they're going to then they're going to be able to figure things out. They're going to let the cows come to them, but they're going to be in those areas. So when you see big groups like that and you don't see bulls with them at the time, you can absolutely start paying attention to those ridges and those areas around where you're seeing that group stay, because those bulls are off in the wings there, right? Yeah. And it's a good time to actually get one to come in quiet, right?
What'd you say, guys?
They're going to feed off the same grass.
Yes.
They're going to go the same water hole. And if you watch that behavior, those bulls will scent check every time they get a whiff of something, and they'll sniff, 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 right? And that's going to be the trigger. And he knows where those cows went, right? I mean, it doesn't, that time of year, it doesn't just start because of estrus, right? They know when they're coming up to it, and they'll start scent checking every trail, every little patch that they're feeding on, every water hole. And once they catch it, man, it's on.
Thinking back last year, Joe, when we were there early, it was hard to get a bull to pop off on you. You know what I mean? Early, it was really hard to get one to answer you back. And then as it kept going, we get, September 4th, September 5th, September 6th. Here, all of a sudden you start hearing them. And now, every now and then you're starting to hear one pop off, and he'll answer back from you, right? And then, man, it was like freaking bonkers going off in places, right? So you could just tell that the bull, when we were finding bulls bachelored up still with other bulls, right? So you started seeing them a few cows, right? And so it was really cool to watch the whole rut in its progression. And I didn't get to hunt the thick of it from the 18th through the 24th, because that's when I think it was pretty much on fire. But man, our first week there, it was pretty quiet. But at the end of the day, we were able to get in there and find some elk and good elk sign, get several of our groups on bulls, and get some shots off at them, at the end of the day, it was pretty quiet though starting out, I actually got a bull to answer me on September the 1st with a huff like that, and he blew up below us, just me huffing like that. I had cow called a couple times before that, but it was that huff that set him off. And I did it again, and he bugled again, circling them downwind of us, right? So again, they weren't real turned on, but it didn't take much to spark their interest, if they were around. When you got a bull like that that's by itself at that time of year, chances are it's a pretty good one. It's probably a pretty big bull, man. He's not just going to be all by himself. He's probably moving, trying to find some cows, So it lit the hair on the back of our necks up, man. It was one of them good growler bulls. So,
and that's the thing that, when you are in a situation where things go quiet, a lot of that happens because of that herd makeup, that bull to cow ratio, the number of cows that you have there. As cow numbers compress down, they're going to be bred quicker. The larger that group is, it's going to extend out, right?
Yep.
It's going to have to do with those aspects that can keep the competition going and can keep the estrus cycle extended out, right?
Yep.
So
That's
that
right.
bulls have to guard. So how does this help a hunter? I mean, if they get into an area and they get in there and they're seeing, like, for example, we ended up in a unit in Colorado and we were seeing a lot of young bulls pushing single cows and one cow,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
We were not hearing a lot of bugling. We would hear some bugling, but
Right.
not a lot of bugling because they were happy with that one cow they got. And it didn't even matter if that cow was in heat. They were just happy with it, right? And just kept moving her along, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that ends up being something where, you know, guys are going like, wow, man, the rut's not happening. So trust me, when breeding is going to happen. Breeding is going to happen. It just might not be noisy breeding because those younger bulls are not going to announce as much. Like you said, they're still going to be the lead guy. If there's nobody else there, that cow's going to accept. If there's other dominant bulls, that cow is not going to accept, right? And that's going to extend things. It's going to push things, and it can make things more intense. So, you know, all of these things considered, you got to really look at the makeup to figure, all right, so now what is my hunting strategy, right? What do I do in those situations? If there are those 5 to 8 year old bulls, and there's very few of them, and they're very competitive, now when you get in there, can you now challenge that bull and get a response from that bull to come and defend? More likely, right? But if you take that 2, 3 year old in there that has those 5 or 6 cows and he's been sounding off even at you when you're at a distance, right? What's going to happen when you get closer to that bull? Yeah, he's gone.
Gandhi.
He's out of there.
Gandhi, man. Yeah.
That's, you know, I was thinking about that too, and it's pretty interesting, right? If you have that immature or younger bull, he's constantly he may not even be holding that cow, right? He's just in pursuit of kind of anticipatorily, right?
Yeah.
He's thinking, I know
He's
this
in
time
tow.
of year is here. I could feel it in my junk here, and I'm just pursuing a cow. It's not necessarily even holding. So I think you have to adjust the strategy when you run into that situation, right? That's the, you know, he
Yeah.
answers back, but it's like he's constantly moving. Well, am I pushing him, or is he just following those cows through this, right? Because he's in pursuit of that.
Yeah. And they're going to a destination. Yeah.
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 So think about, you know, we talked about the number of the bulls, right? So the question that I want to ask now is does a large number of cows, a large herd of cows, does that mean that there's going to be a better rut because those cows are going to attract?
We got to have bull numbers to have that too, right? But you're going to have more cows going into heat. So if you got the bull numbers and you got a ton of cows, it's going to be off the chain.
So here's another thing that comes into that. Here's that other caveat. What if you have a good feed year, then that number of cows can be solid. If you have a bad feed year and they're malnourished, what starts happening there? You know, those cows, yeah, they're not going to cycle the same way, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's going to make prolonged messy breeding. It's going to increase stress, you know, so, you know, and that can actually have an effect as well. You know, because a lot of times, just because it's funny because hunters sometimes want a different thing than what's healthy for a herd. They want a lot of numbers, right? A lot of numbers always isn't good for the herd. You know, that herd has to be controlled to a certain point. And sometimes hunting objectives and you know, herd health are two different things sometimes, right? So that's something to think about. And those are areas, you know, because my thought was, well, do you want to lower down some of your cows? Well, if you end up with a herd that is malnourished, where those numbers are hurting themselves, absolutely, to make that herd healthier, you want to limit that. So that's when cows, those late cow hunts are beneficial and things like that.
Absolutely, especially if you can find some of them older ones that ain't holding calves and stuff like that, where they're maybe even barren. They're not having calves anymore. You can get them out of the herd and they're, going to produce anymore, and they're just, feeding off the land. So it's hard to, I would say that's hard, but your bigger cows that don't have calves with them, I'm sure most of them either lost. It could be that they lost them to predation, depending on what your predator types are that are out there. I think where we hunt, black bears are probably the biggest predator on all the calf crops that are there. But man, we have some big cow numbers, so how many have we seen in a group out there at times? It's a lot,
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see us doing some late season cow hunts and stuff like that coming up this year, because I think it needs it. I think the balance needs it, everything. I mean, it's not like we're over harvesting bulls, but at the end of the day, you got to have some balance to that. We do it down here on our whitetail herd as well. We try to have balance, and generally we're 1 to 3 down here, 1 buck every 3 does. We'd like to be the 1 to 2, but it's just the way things go in this drought country where I hunt. They throw a lot more doe deer, so your numbers will stay up. And I think that's one of God's way of making sure that you have a population, so we have to be real diligent about, the amount of does that we take every year. First of all, if you got a drought, the land is not equipped enough to sustain a big herd of whitetails, right? And whitetails are kind of like elk in the way that they'll move out if they don't have food, sustainable food. But more than anything, it's water. Water for them is key. There's tons of brush they can still browse on and stuff like that. And thank God elk are browsers too. I mean, we've all seen them chew the heck and trees and stuff like that. So got to be a pretty rough winter on them for them to just vacate an area. Luckily, we hunt in some areas where it's not like way up in the northern countries of the northern Rockies, where that snow gets super, super deep, and they have a hard time with that. So, well, we're blessed where we hunt, and we have to manage the herd that way as well. But I think that's one of the reasons why we have such a good rut every year, is because we do have bigger herds of cows.
So let me ask this question, man, because the whole thing that I want to deal with tonight is like, yes, we're analyzing the herd makeup, but one of the reasons is because we are having more, or it seems like we're having more and more quiet ruts, right? What do you think, Guy? You're not
quiet or later.
What's that?
Quiet or later?
I think both. I think both, Guy, and you're the perfect guy to talk to us about, because we hunt in an area that's got a ton of elk in it, and so do you. But I'd really like to hear your perspective from that Colorado background, because there's so many of those hunters up in Colorado that are doing what you're doing off your back and solo hunting and stuff like that. So would love to hear your take.
Do you
think it's later, or do you think it's quieter?
Well, I'm going to say a little bit of both, right? I think,
okay.
we here in Colorado, we see recreators year round, right? So the animals kind of, there's a push for that, right? And if they feel, lack of a better word, threatened, right? They're not going to get as vocal. They do sound off. I've had them sounding off and talking in June, July, and they're, bugling. Cows are bugling, bulls are bugling. They're moving through the backyard, just talking all year round. But I have seen more success come later in the season. And like this year, I'm going to say almost similar to New Mexico, that week and a half to second and a half week of October, I heard and saw more rut activity than I have in 3 or 4 years in September in the same exact area.
So this is a perfect thing to ask, though. That's the result. What was the reasons behind that?
You think it's pressure? You think it's pressure there, Guy?
I don't
Or you
necessarily
think it's
believe
just the evolution of the elk herd that's moving their chemistry and to having, or maybe our days are not as shorter in September anymore, and the days are
I
shorter in
I
October.
I think elk come in when elk come in, man. What I'm trying to say is I know.
Yeah, but something drives. I mean, it's a historic, it's a nature fact that the days getting shorter, it pushes it to the estrus because of the equinox, right?
Right?
So
Correct.
it's correlated to that. So my thing is I haven't talked to a wildlife biologist in Colorado or New Mexico. Are those days as long now in September and they're starting to get shorter in October? You know what I mean? So it's pushing that cycle to further out, right? Because the equinox is when it is, right? I mean, it's in
All you got to
that
do is look
midweek
at
of
your
September,
all you got to do
right?
is look at your time and your daylight, man, and
Yeah, yeah,
everything. It decreases by 2 minutes and increases by 2 minutes, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but the thing is, if you're getting an intense October rut,
Mm-hmm.
that means that they're coming into their second cycle,
Second cycle.
right? So what does that mean? Why weren't they bred in their first cycle
Not enough bulls,
or
young
young
bulls.
bulls, right?
I mean, I think those are all factors, right? I mean, if you look at the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, right? They've been dry years. Feed has factor on that. One of my favorite areas to hunt up behind me, man, all the little entrapments that are, in that backcountry there, bone dry, bone dry. And there's one literally 5 miles that has water in it, right? And I think that's a huge factor. So you got the feed factor, and you got, I don't want to say that I'm not a huge believer in the pressure factor either, because when I talk about, walking out on that ridge, maybe me and two guys in the 3 years, 4 years I've been hunting it, so it's not a pressure thing back there. I've lent it to a lot of it to the dry year, right? Making assumptions. There's really no shortage of mature age class bull, younger bull, and a decent ish, number of cows. Not loaded with cows. Not what you would expect walking into that area. So it's pretty interesting, and I've lent it to the lack of moisture is kind of where I'm at, right? That's just the most apparent thing on the surface that I've gathered from it.
So, okay, when you say lack of moisture, so do you have good feed, bad feed, less
Bad feed. I
nutrition?
mean, just
Right.
dry, just not as green, right? It just doesn't look like the same landscape.
And that absolutely makes those cows messy on their estrus, right? And when they're messy, the cows are not going to be bred a lot of times, and depends on the bulls that are there to do it. One of my thoughts though was this, is because like I watched Dallin up there in October, man, when they start hunting in October and just calling in all these bulls and stuff like that. And I wonder sometimes if those big bulls that are breeding, that are finding those holes, and they've got their group of cows and they breed them and they breed them early. I wonder if they don't go shopping then after that and, go find those other cows that are now still out there that haven't been bred, man. It's almost like it's kind of like the cows wanting to drop all at the same time, right? You know, um, if the bulls are all, they're trying to do the breeding and that's not happening and it's spread out. Now there's all of these cows at the beginning and all these bulls that are trying to breed. Well, that's all happening with these. But as the number in the pick gets fewer and fewer, now you get more concentration going towards those cows that are coming in heat, right?
And then you get the younger age class bulls that are missing those opportunities as those cows get bred, and now they're out shopping on every aisle and they don't know what they want to eat and they don't care.
Right. Yeah. So that makes it very interesting. So how can, when we talk about this, when we talk about it being quieter, right?
Mhm.
How can what kind of strategies can we give our hunters to be able to help them out in those situations? Because one of our philosophies at ElkBros is, if you can kill quiet bulls, you can kill any bull.
Yeah.
Right? So, what are some of the things that you can do if you've got a younger age group that, they're not going to be as aggressive, in their calling, right?
Joe, it harkens me back to when me, you, and Chav were hunting together in a park close to where we hunt now. And we were actually in public land at the time. And we saw two young bulls, I think a 5x5 and a young 6, that were down there just feeding below us. And we cow called. We did everything we thought to do. And they didn't even pick their head up, lift up and look to see there's a cow call, right? So we're like, man, these guys can't hear. Are they deaf? I mean, they ain't but what were they? Maybe 150 yards from us, 200 yards from us. So Joe said, Gilbert, you get over here. I'm going to get over there, and we're going to cause a ruckus, and we're just going to sound like a big herd of elk up here and see what happens. So I learned something then, and that was probably 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
When that happened, Joe? 2019.
Yeah, 2018, 2019. So I learned right then and there that if you're dealing with silent elk that don't want to talk, just start trying to make herd sounds. Calf, cow, bull screaming, right? It's kind of that push-pull that, if you want to, that we do so well, the cow pickle. I mean, all of that, we're just sounding like another herd of elk that are above them. I'll never forget when you and I started bouncing bugles off one another back and forth, that bull shot his head up and he was like, what in the world is going on up there? And then here he come, doom, 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 man. I mean, it was like a moth to a flame. Here he come. And we had Chav there in front of us, and then we learned our lesson with a decoy mechanism that actually silhouetted us behind the decoy. And that bull, he was looking right at Joe, and then looking through the decoy, Joe's silhouette was behind the decoy, right? So the bull just veered off and went on in the woods, and we wondered what happened. And we actually called him into bow range to Chav, and Chav just never did get drawn, right? But that bull was 150, 200 yards from us when we saw him. But he never raised his head up until me and Joe started raising her there. And then he got real interested in what was going on. But we mimicked cows coming into heat and bulls pushing them around up there, so it was more herd talk than anything. So if I could give any nugget of what I do when it's quiet, it's we sound like a herd of elk when we're moving through the woods, but we go extremely slow because those bulls are going to come in. But when they come in, they're going to be silent. Can't tell you how many times me and Luis got busted this year because we were moving and I don't move fast, man. Joe will tell you, I'm slow. But at the end of the day, we got busted, and I couldn't believe it. Several times we got busted with bulls coming in, but it was that throwing cow sounds out, calf, just a little turd head bugle, but they think that that's herd talk, and they want to come see what the whole commotion's about, man. So if I could give anybody one piece of advice, that's what I like to do, and cover ground, man. Just go cover ground and sound like a herd of elk while you're covering ground.
And you got to stop every now and then with
that's
that,
right. Not just constant, but you sound like a little herd moving, and then they settle down, they're feeding, right? And then, keep moving on and sound off again, and it's or whatever. But
because when you think about it, elk want to do elk things, and when they hear other elk that are doing that, that's their pull, right? So that's like those bulls staying up on that ridge, right? Those bulls are staying up on that ridge. You got a whole bunch of cows that are out there. But what happens, dude, if all of a sudden you're starting to hear these extra sounds and you're starting to hear bulls that are going off? What does that signal to those other elk? What does it signal to a hunter What is a signal to a hunter? If I was to do that, do those cows, and I would start to do all that bugling, what does that hunter think in their head that's going
There's a
on?
rut going on.
There's a rut going on over there.
Yeah, man.
Cows
in heat.
Those bulls think the same thing, right?
They do.
So with all of this, that where we were going with this, here's the question that I want to ask, man. Are hunters actually ruining the daytime rut with aggressive calling? Now, I want that aggressive calling, like, I want to define that, because I think there's different types of aggressive calling. But that's the question I want to throw out in the air. Are hunters actually ruining daytime rut with aggressive calling?
Oof. I don't think it's a ruining it. They may be ruining their hunt with being too aggressive too early, or not understanding the dynamic and the makeup and where the rut is in time. So I'm not going to say they're ruining the rut. They're ruining their hunt by not having the understanding of what's going on there, right? Being a bit too aggressive too early. And it goes back to what Gil's saying, and then you followed up and said it, right? We started off with this sound. They didn't respond, so they didn't want nothing to do, with going back and forth. There's a couple bulls. Well, now we start soft and we build up, right? And introduce that cow here, that cow over there, that calf there. Now the bulls are going, right? It's less intimidation. I'm not just going into this bull, and then, he calls back, and then, aggressive, right? And then I go back at him with a challenge or a chuckle, right? And not an inviting chuckle, but a very aggressive chuckle, right? So I think it goes back to, things we've said in the past over and over again, right? Start small and then build up from there, because you can never go backwards, but you can always go forward, right? I think we're not ruining the rut. I think we're ruining our hunts when we go ham right off the get-go, right? And that's
less is more. Yep. Less is more.
I've blown a couple of elk because I got so wrapped up in the aggression and the moment where he's screaming at me, I'm screaming at him, he's screaming at me, he chuckles at me, I'm challenging him, he's challenging me. But then it's just like, you didn't cut it off. And then that bull's like, no, I'm out of here. This dude is like, he's reared up. He's a little bit hotter than me. And I laughed about it after, right? It was like, man, I just blew that because I just lost all my senses. Just sit there start with a soft little, I'm here, and just move from that if you got to get on the tube. Yeah. But I think, again, you're not ruining the rut. You're ruining your hunt.
So, but everybody... Here's the playbook for most people. Moving down a ridge, location bugle, location bugle, location bugle. That hunter goes through, another one comes by, location bugle, location bugle. As soon as, in fact, right before season starts, a lot of guys go out scouting, and what do? Location bugle, location bugle, location bugle, right? Now, elk are doing that too, right? But here's what I think the problem is I think there's a lot of people that don't see the elk that are seeing them when they're location bugling, location bugling, location bugling. I think there's a lot of hunters that are out there that are actually getting elk that come into them that never see them.
Right.
For sure.
That
right?
Absolutely can be a factor. Yep.
I'm going to tell you right now, though, Joe, I very rarely call a bull in with a bugle. It's mostly with a cow and a calf call.
Absolutely.
But I can get him aggravated where I get him located, and then I can slip in there and snipe his ass, right? But very rarely do I ever call one in with the bugle. I have a couple of times. I won't say none of them, but very right.
What I'm trying to get to, though, is that, for example, I've never been able to hunt the second part of the season. I've always been hunting elk from September 1st to September 10th, right? And killed 38 elk doing
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
But when we would do
And
our
called a lot of bulls in.
yeah, but when we would do our adventure camps, we would pick the 18th through the 24th, right? Why were we picking the 18th through the 24th?
You had more opportunity for bulls, for cows to be going in heat.
What does that do?
Gives you an opportunity to teach.
Well,
Vocal.
yeah. So one of the biggest problem for most elk hunters out there is they struggle finding elk, right?
Yep.
That's where they struggle, is finding them. So if elk are silent, they're really going to struggle. If elk are talking, at least they know it's almost like a carrot thing. That's like, I compare our two properties. You got the Martinez property that has a whole lot of trees and real thick timber. You got the Chase property that's not so thick. You can see a lot in that country, right? Well, in the Chase country, you can see those daggone bulls 200 yards away, 300 yards away. So you know there's elk in the country and you're motivated, right? And you're like, yeah, like that. Well, you can be in the Martinez country. There could be a bull 100 yards away from you, two bulls 100 yards, three bulls 100 yards away from you. And if they're not talking, there's no elk in the country. Right? So that's the one reason that we went to that time. It doesn't mean that they're easier to kill, because honestly, I think elk are easier to kill early in the season than they are late in the season. And one of the reasons I think, and here's the great debate, do we educate elk? Or, and what I mean by educate them is, do they start associating all of these bugles, and all of a sudden they see a human, bugle, human, bugle, human. Now, I don't know if
creatures of habit.
Yeah, I don't know if they associate that bugle with that human, but it seems like every time there's a bugle, it's kind of like a wolf showing up or a bear showing up, right? Does that create more of and that's what I mean. You know, the more we call or just throw calls out without really and moving especially. So here's the big part of it is I really think the great part for me about calling is instead of us going to the elk, we have the elk coming to us. If we're still and they're moving, we have more of an opportunity. If they're moving, if we're moving and they're still, we have a huge disadvantage, right? And I think part of the problem sometimes is too many people, and a bunch of people are just doing that. They're sending sounds and they're moving, sending sounds and moving. Elk hear them coming, elk see them, and it's done deal, right? Because they're doing all the moving. That's like you have a bull bugling, and you've got open area in the trees, and you start bugling going into that bull, as you know, bugling right to him with it all open. Well, what's that bull doing up on the ridge?
Watching.
Listening. Right?
Smelling, sniffing.
And you've already given yourself away. So I absolutely think that the wrong type of calling creates the wrong type of pressure sometimes and can educate. So I'm not saying not to call.
No.
At all, right?
You need, when you do it, take your time if you're going to move, right? I said this already. Luis and I blew a couple of those up because we were moving too fast. And we waited 30 minutes before we moved, but sometimes that ain't enough. Sometimes you got to wait 45 minutes, an hour, because that bull, I've seen him stand there in a standoff with me for 15, 18 minutes and never move, man. They stand there and look the whole time. They never move. They just sit there looking. So
diligent.
He did. Oh man, diligent in just ciphering everything from the wind movements, licking their nose to their ears rotating back and forth. They're trying to find out where that came from and what made that noise, right? So if you're moving and they're standing still, they got you, man. 100%. Like way before you ever get there. Right. They've already picked the movement up. They probably, if you got a swirling wind, they got a little whiff of you and they're checked out, and you will think there was ever an elk there. you know. But I think if you, like Joe said, if you can get them coming to find you, and you're patient enough and you're diligent enough to sit there, you're going to have more success calling
And I
bulls.
don't I don't think you need
Quiet
to.
bull.
I don't think you absolutely. I don't think you have to stay sitting there. I think you can move, but I think you
Yeah,
got to move through, and you got to be stopping and looking and listening. And what are you
100%.
listening for? You're listening for a rolling rock, right?
Branch breaking. Yeah.
Yeah, you're listening for that
Mhm.
kind of stuff, man.
Yeah.
Because, as and we'll do this, like you said, we will move, we will cow call, and we'll do
Yes.
that, and we will stop and listen, man, and look for that movement of an animal that's trying to, come into us like
I
that.
mean,
So,
one of you guys said it earlier, right? And we really have to mimic their behavior, right? I
Yeah.
mean, if they're talking to another animal, or us, and we're talking back to them, they're going to hit a stop and scan, and they're going to look, and they're going
Yeah.
to try and pick that apart, right? And I think it applies for us too, right? We have to put ourselves in their hooves, so to speak.
Yeah.
We have to call and get to that stop and scan. I don't think you can just randomly run a ridge, especially skyline, folks.
Yeah.
But I think you have to plan that route to a point, right? I know you're looking, I know you're scouting, you're hunting scouting, as Joe says, right? But you gotta say, hey, if I'm that elk and I heard that call, if I move through here, where's that stop and scan point, right? And
there
you're
you go.
responding to no signal. You're responding to no response, right? You have to go into hunter mode and be instinctive and get to those stop and scans and show a little patience, right? And if that doesn't, where's my next stop and scan? I want to keep on
Mhm.
this line until I find them, right? For me, when I go out to scout, guess when that is at this point?
Yeah.
Opener.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm going out and yeah, I'm a call, but I'm not going to go crazy until I know, hey, okay, I'm in them. I smell them. I got
Yeah.
a fresh sign, whatever
Here.
that looks like.
Mhm.
But I'm going to get to a point where I feel like it's safe enough for me to get, a little more vocal, but it's stop and scan, move, stop and scan. Joe
Yeah.
and I hunting last year. That was our deal. All right, we're going to get to over here. Let's call a minute. Let's wait. Um,
Yeah.
I
And we
think you
actually picked
really
the
have
elk up. We actually picked the elk up before they picked us up. So
right.
I mean, that was wild. Normally they've already seen you if you're moving through the woods, right?
Right.
But Guy and I, guys got eagle eyes anyway, and we're like, oh, both of us at the same time. Whoa, look what's in front of us there. It's just a cow feeding by herself, or a young calf feeding by herself, and it's like, oh, this could get interesting right here. One thing I want to say, Joe, is we're outfitters now in New Mexico, and we sell land tags and in Unit 53. And I was answering a question the other day, and this is so important for guys to understand. You can spend a lot of time trying to find elk, right? And we put a tremendous amount of time into scouting and into finding elk, and there's several of us doing. But for the guy that's coming out from the Mid East, or from, let's say they're coming from Kentucky or from Ohio or whatever, and they're by themselves and they're coming out to Unit 53, right, or anywhere else, understanding where elk are gonna be or have been is a huge deal. That guy asked me how much we charge for the tag. I told him, I said, but you're also going to get 5 years or 4 years worth of incredible data that we've learned about that unit. And that data, where we find bulls and where we call bulls in and where we found elk time and time again, that data is worth more than the price of the tag, brother. Because at the end of the day, you could spend 10 days, 12 days nature hiking 200,000 acres of that country and still wonder if there's an elk there, right? We had our adventure campers there a few years back. They were there, what, 5 days before camp even started, Joe?
Yeah.
And those cats hadn't seen hide nor hair of an elk, right? And then we take them in there and call, 4 or 5 bulls in for them. And they're like, how in the world did you guys understand it? Well, we've done that. We understand the herd dynamics. We understand where elk be and should be. And so and we're diligent at what we're good at, which is calling elk, right?
Well, and dude, the thing that I see, the biggest problem I see the most is that dudes are hunting bugles and not elk. So that's the main thing I see with most people is they get out there, and if they don't get a bugle response, they really don't think that there's elk in there, right?
Yeah.
So, and what they got to understand is bugling it's only one expression of rut behavior, man.
Yeah.
Just because they're not bugling doesn't mean that they're not breeding.
Yeah, and just because they're bugling don't mean they're breeding.
Yeah.
So it's the same. It's the
They
same.
could be advertising.
Yeah, they just
right?
advertise, trying to find each other.
Yep. Yep.
That's you can tell a bull's bugle. It changes from the time of year that he's starting to get his lungs about like that and starting to bugle a little bit. And then once he starts feeling his oats a little bit, you'll hear a little more of that rasp in that bugle, right?
That's
and
a different bull too.
Right, exactly.
Because what you're hearing is a transfer of herd bulls, right?
Yeah.
So you can look here, if you just see how this rolls, man, is that those first bulls that get with those cows and start splitting them out,
they are not the herd bulls.
Those are the younger bulls, man.
Right.
And they end up on the backside of it too. They want those cows. Like Guy said, they're feeling their oats. They know that they have that feeling. They know what nature's supposed to be doing. They're trying to do it. They go in and split them out. Those bigger bulls are just staying in the wings. They're conserving
energy.
So when you're hearing those young bugles and you're hearing, and then those bulls that really don't want to respond, that don't really want to come in, that's those younger dudes, because not only are you doing this, but those older bulls are there doing it too, right? It's all competition, right?
You'll hear them too. You'll hear them want to bugle. They'll be, you'll hear them want to, but they just ain't quite there yet.
And some of them they'll just chuckle sometimes, or you'll hear early morning bugles, and then that's about all you hear because they don't want to give themselves away anymore. They're feeling it that way in the morning. But then when those other big guys move in, now that voice changes. And really, a lot of time, it's not a 3-note. It's just that one.
Hard, raspy bugle, right? And they growl at the bottom of it. It's like, that's daddy showing up, So I get it. You want to hear them. And generally, you're going to in the first part of the year because that's what they're doing. They're warming up. They're warming their lungs up. And you can get some of them to pop off from time to time and let you know where they're at. And you should go investigate it. You should go investigate every bugle you hear. Yeah, but 100%. Take your time getting there early in the season, because I promise you, if you made a cow call or a calf call, they're looking for you too. They're very curious animal, man. I think Joe's right. I think we push through elk a lot more than we think we do, and they've seen us before we've got there.
I've told people so many times, and I've been with somebody, Guy, when we were on a hunt there, I said, I bet we've already passed 5 bulls that saw us that we didn't see them, right?
And good luck if they're bedded down and you miss them, they're not going to pop up. They're going to hang until they think they've been spotted.
Joe and I walked by 2 raghorns one time. We were pretty close to where you and Joe were on your bull last year, Guy. And we walked by 2 raghorns. They were laying down in the brush, and we walked right by them and stood up. It was like, what? Old man, but they were just little bitty rags, and I think one was a spike, as a matter of fact. And I'd have shot one of them goobers if we could have got it right. I promise you. But they watched us walk right by them, man. Yeah. It was like, what in the world is going on here? And then we never knew how many elk were really around us till it snowed 6 inches. When it snowed 4 to 6 inches on the ground, brother, oh my gosh, they were everywhere. And I'm like, this is how much we don't know about the area, right? They didn't just come in here all at once. They've been here. It just, they're so adaptable.
And that's the key, though. For hunters to be successful, they have to adapt to how the rut is behaving, right, at that time, rather than to expect everything's going to be a screaming match, man. That's not going to be the case. You know, when I think back to all the elk that I kill, 80% of those bulls were silent bulls. You know, I mean, they might have been vocal at a point. And that's another thing that's going to happen, man, because these bulls, when they do bugle, and if you did something and you're starting to sound like a cow and you have any kind of bull introduced, they might be coming in, but there's going to be a point where they're going to come in to see what the competition looks like.
For
and
sure.
They're not going to say a word, right?
When you called that bull in for me from over a mile away, Joe had to jump the barrier and called him up a ridge, and we had the long standoff with that bull, like an 8-minute standoff. That bull took an hour and a half, almost 2 hours to come to us. Number one, it was he bugled a few times, and then we could hear him raking his horns, and then he bugled one more time, but that was it. All of a sudden we seen, then all of a sudden we seen jump the fence, and here he comes up the ridge right to us. And when he got to the top, he bugled again, and he looked around like, where did everybody go?
But that's just it. So if you remember, that bull used all 3 senses.
Did. Yes,
because
sir.
he gets up there and he had us pinpointed where he should have seen elk.
Yeah.
But he's coming up over a top, so he comes to a stop and scan, and he goes up and he is listening.
Yes.
Just like this, man. He's listening. He doesn't see anything. And he's looking because they want to verify first with the eyes, right? He's looking, doesn't see anything. He's listening just like that. And what does he do? So now he gives a little, right?
Yeah, he chuckles right in our face. Yeah.
He chuckles just to see if he's going to get a response. And then he sniffs, just like he used everything he had. Like, well, where is that son of a gun, right?
And took 8 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
8 full
Standing in
minutes
front of us at 30 yards, right?
At 35 yards. 8 full minutes. Look, staring a hole through the 3 of us. Actually, there were 4 of us. Brendan was off to the right-hand side, but there was me, you, and Chav right there, right? And he's trying to stare a hole right through us. So I'm just telling you, man, a lot of these bulls are only going to talk a little bit, and then they're going to come seek you out. It's really important for you to stop and watch your 6. You don't even think something's going to come downwind from you, but I'm telling you right now, sometimes the wind's bent a little bit different behind you, and they don't catch you right there when they get behind you. And I've turned around and looked, and there's 2 bulls looking at us at 75 yards. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're not supposed to be back there. The wind's going that way, right?
The script said you were supposed to come front.
Yeah, exactly. The script said you're supposed to come screaming around us, So when we're partner calling now, we got one looking one way and one looking the other. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, they could come from any direction,
Yeah. And that's why, the title of this is Rut Expectation versus Reality, right? And, the things that you heard us talk about herd makeup. You heard us talk about young bulls, about the size of cows, about youth of cows. You heard us talk about the size of the herd. You heard us talk about bull to cow ratios. And I'll tell you, probably the best bull to cow ratio is right about 30 bulls to 100 cows, right about in there. Now, if you have an older class, and that's what happens on some of these special, special places to be able to draw to get in that are, really difficult draws. You get in some of these places where there's fewer hunters, and they have a lot of those bigger bulls that are, because there's fewer hunters every year, less big bulls are being taken out. And because less big bulls are taken out, you keep your mature group, and you got enough of an age class that it's working. You're not missing an age class. So you think about all of those things that are happening. And then when you get there and, you're not hearing a lot of bugles, at that point, it's not about hunting bugles. It's about hunting the elk. Start running those roads, man. Look for tracks, and don't look for single tracks. Look for a lot of tracks. Hunt those cows. Find those cows, and you're going to find those bulls, because those bulls are not far from those cows. If it's a big group, man, keep an eye on that big group. They're going to start splitting, and guess what happens? They don't split on their own. Bulls are going to come in and start splitting them. They might split them at night, but you know the general area where they are, and they're going to start pushing those out as they go. And as they start pushing, now activity is going to happen more. And remember, those first bulls to push are going to be the young bulls. So they're not going to be ultra aggressive type bulls as it goes. But there's going to be bulls in the wings. Those are the ones you're going to want to work. Okay? So just trying to get you to think about, all right, so if I'm in an area and I'm not hearing a lot of bugling activity, don't just fall apart on that. Think about why and what strategy you got to use at that point, okay, to get them. And if bulls at that time are looking for cows, I'm telling you, I'm a lover before I'm a fighter, always, anyways, right? Cow-calf talk, is going to be dynamite for you. And it doesn't have to be complex. And look, if you do get a response, don't overthink it. If you do get a bull that bugles, if you don't get one, just keep working, just keep working, keep talking, get in those areas where they are, pay attention to the sign.
Yeah,
that's what you want to have work for you. Okay.
Sign's huge, man. Seeing, fresh droppings, seeing fresh rubs, fresh tracks. Those are, those are the landmarks of where elk are going to be and have been. And sometimes they don't, sometimes they go a long way around where they have been. And sometimes they're just right up in front of you. You just never know, So when we got that snow, I really found out how many elk were around us.
Isn't that crazy though, man?
Oh,
you know what I mean? Yeah,
yes.
Because we're going around and Gil's like, man, the elk just aren't in here. It snows and it's like, well, I guess they are here.
Yeah.
I have never,
my mind.
I have never been able to get on a track in track one. And I tracked 3 bulls together and caught up to them. And even my slow fat butt, we caught up to them in that snow. Now, just like Joe said, they saw us before we saw them. Why? Because that crunchy snow, they're on a ridge. We're coming down a gully to where that ridge comes up, and that bull sees us up there and he barks at us, and then he chuckles. And if I'd have had my 300 PRC, man, I'm telling you, we'd have got even. We'd have got even, baby. I promise you, man.
Around, buddy.
Yeah, best broadhead around. We'd have got even with that fool, man. He was 91 yards in some thicker stuff, but I promise you, I'd have found me a wedge to send that bullet through there. But Brendan and I had 3 bulls, and I mean beautiful big bulls, right? Not some little chumps. I mean, these were, but what was crazy is you could actually see where they defecated, and it would put a hole in the snow, and the snow was yellow where they peed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy stuff you don't see. It just taught me a lot about herd dynamics and how these bulls, they're there. You just can't, if you're not hearing them, you don't think they're there, but they're so freaking stealthy, man.
And that's a point that I really want people to get hammered home. Just because you're not seeing them, right? Or I'm sorry, just because you're not hearing them doesn't mean that there's not elk there,
Guy, you were going to say something there before I rudely interrupted you. You remember what it was?
I have no idea, brother.
I hope, this is just some thought right now about herd makeup. I think one of the next things that we really got to talk about, and where I think guys really, really struggle, there's a couple of things. I want to do something where I just talk about my basic formula. But the other thing that that I want to do is really talk about finding elk, right? Because I think that's where people really, really struggle. I think people, they equate miles with elk hunting, and that's not always the case. There's a time to put on miles.
Yeah.
No, there's a time to do that. But just because you're putting on miles doesn't mean that you're doing a good job at finding elk, because generally when we put miles on, that means we're finding the best mode either on a top of ridge or something like that, and we're moving, just talking, moving, talking, and you've got all these elk that are a third down the ridge from you that are looking up at you as you're doing that, and you just keep they're listening to you get further away, and they're like, oh, I guess they're not coming down here. You know what I mean? So just because you're putting in mileage doesn't mean that you're really being effective. So
I personally, and not because I just move slow anyway, because I'm bigger and stuff like that, but I'm telling you right now, I really feel like the more I focus in on slowing my hunt down and saturating an area that I know's got elk in it, the better I do. You know, I have hunted with days, and he and I have hunted together many days where we've done the 6-7 mile deal, and we've been successful doing that. We've had 2 or 3 opportunities. We blew up a couple opportunities, stuff like that. I feel like as I get older in my hunting career, when I've understood the prowess of the elk and their habitat and their habits and what they like to do and not do, if I find an area that's got elk in it, I really feel like I can sit down and get after them, you know, and not have to burn miles up and go through the whole country in one day. You know, I can focus in that area and pick it apart and call the elk to me, you know, get them to come to me. And I'm an equal opportunity bull hunter, man. If you got any kind of rack, you in the crosshair, big O. So at the end of the day, I do like killing big bulls, but at the end of the day, it's not a necessity for me. So them young dumb ones, oh, come to daddy. You know, I got you, man. I got a place for you. So I just want guys to understand that what I'm trying to say is slow down, man. Slow down and let everything, like Guy says, let it marinate, man. Let it marinate and do what other elk do, and I think you'll be more successful.
Well, buddy, why don't you close us out, man? That was a good one.
For sure, man. I don't know our other listeners. I mean, these are 2 of the best elk hunters in the world that I get to share the elk woods with every day. So getting wisdom from Guy and from Joe about hunting silent elk is incredible, because when we started out doing this, you know, whether you started out with a hoochie mama or an external call or whatever, we all wanted to hear that proverbial bugle out there and go chase them down, you know, go find them and then, or call them in to us. And we've all had that one beautiful scenario, or maybe many. Joe's had many in his lifetime where he's been able to call the bull in and he's seen him come in and he's been able to finish. And I mean, myself included. And those are special moments. But every time you can get out in the woods and, you know, observe, take part in what God's created for us, it's the best time of your life, man. I don't think anybody else of us are ever going to want to put, I wanted to work more on our tombstone. At the end of the day, we're going to want to spend as many days in the woods chasing these elk and having fun. So phenomenal podcast tonight, guys. Really good information on how to hunt silent bulls, how to hunt different stages. And gosh, how many other podcasts can we do along with every stage of the rut? You know, guys, always great having your perspective, especially from the guy with the backpack on his back and doing solo stuff. We're a little spoiled where we're at times, but we've also been on the other end of where we've hunted public land for many years as well. So, but guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate and review us. You have to go to Apple Podcasts or iTunes to review us, and you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. And Joe, we still got a few hunts left out there in the Martinez and the Chase, guys. So if y'all want to come hunt with us this year, y'all go to ElkBrosAdventures.com. Check us out. We've got landowner tags available for you guys. I know the draws are fixing to start hitting, and guys that didn't draw, y'all look us up, and we'll hook you up with some tags if we got any left. So just a reminder, if any of our answered on the show, your questions to joe@elkbros.com. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, husbands kiss your wives, wives kiss your husbands, hug your babies, keep your broadhead sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Yes, sir. Peace, y'all.
God bless.
Hey, hope to see you guys in Denver.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
is home to me. No boundaries for my soul. The pounding, the primal blood, driving hunger like no other, running through my veins. No man versus nature, only me versus me. A centuries old challenge, raging deep inside my soul. No anger, malice or evil, only a hunter and his prey. This is my life, country born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way. This is my life, I know it's my day, my life. Don't think you know me, my life, no odds will own me, my destiny, my way. Like a ghost unseen, tasting every scent, knowing with every breeze. The trail before me, the fire burning inside me. This is what we live for, honor, passion and pain. This is my life, grinder born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way. This is my life, I know it's my day, my life. Don't think you know me, my life, no odds will own me, my destiny, my way. This is my life, runner born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way. This is my life, I know it's my day.